Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Quantum Alignment Show. I'm really excited to be here with you today. We're going to be talking about why we do the things we do or why we don't do the things we do sometimes and how that relates to unmet energy needs in your chart. We're going to be looking at this in the context of our personal relationship with ourselves and also in the context of our relationships with each other. So today we're going to be talking about your unmet energy needs and why sometimes when we don't get our energy needs met appropriately, we sometimes resort to what I'll say mischief, or we don't create the full expression of our potential in our life. So let's go with that today. You will get the most out of today's presentation if you have your human design chart. We are the quantum alignment system, which is a synthesis of human design, energy psychology, subtle body therapies, and coaching. The integrated approach to changing the way you create in your life, changing your point of attraction in your life, is an integrative quantum approach to maximizing the full expression of your potential in the world. We're going to be looking today most specifically at your human design and how your human design influences what you need and why that's important. So we're going to talk about energy needs and the human design chart. So let's talk about this first in the context of what does it mean to be human? Let's also put the human in human design, right? All people, all humans, big ones and little ones, have basic needs. These are needs that are documented in psychology. These are actually needs that are, in some cases, especially when we're small children, these are not just psychological needs. These are actually neurological needs. If we don't get these needs met appropriately when we're little, it actually changes the way our brains and our bodies work and our hardwiring. It actually changes us on a genetic level. If we don't get our needs met appropriately, it not only changes our body, it actually causes us to learn patterns of behavior that sometimes keep us from maximizing our full potential. All people need to feel loved and valued. All people need to feel capable. And all people need to feel powerful. And if over the course of your life, you didn't have those needs met appropriately and you didn't learn how to get those needs met in a way that really served the full expression of your potential, not only did you probably learn unconscious, sometimes self-destructive patterns, you also didn't learn how to properly move your energy. Getting these needs met allows us to move our energy so that we stay healthy, so that we avoid big, intense emotional experiences such as anger and frustration, bitterness, and disappointment in life. When we get these needs met, particularly in our relationships, we feel good because our energy exchange in our partnerships flows well. And we feel loved and valued and powerful and capable in our partnerships. And we like to stay in those kinds of partnerships because it feels good. We feel seen. We feel complete in partnerships that help us feel loved, valued, capable, and powerful. Your unique human design chart influences the kinds of needs that you have. We all have those basic needs, but we all have varying degrees about how much we need certain things. Some of us need more power. Some of us, by design, need to experience more love. Some of us have a greater need for expressing our capability based on our hardwiring and our human design chart. If over the course of your life you did not get your needs met appropriately, what you may have done is you may have learned unconscious ways of behaving that helped you get those needs met in an inappropriate way. So when we don't get our basic needs met, because those needs are so powerful, we then create behaviors, mischief, patterns of being in the world that help us get those needs met. But those ways of getting our needs met don't often help us bring out the full potential and the expression of ourselves, and they don't help us move our energy very well. When you learn these these mistaken ways of getting your needs met, or these inappropriate ways of getting your needs met, we call these mistaken motivations. We're going to be talking today about four basic mistaken motivations: the mistaken motivations of attention, the mistaken motivation of power, the mistaken motivation of inadequacy, and the mistaken motivation of revenge. When you engage in mistaken motivations, these inappropriate ways of getting your needs met, what happens is you learn to trigger specific emotional responses in other people, because the emotional response that you learn to trigger gets your energy needs met, albeit not in the best way, but it still helps you get your needs met. So let's think about attention for just a minute, and think about a fly, and think about what happens in the summertime. In the summertime, when we have flies and a fly gets into your house and it's buzzing around and buzzing around and buzzing around in your kitchen, it's driving you crazy. It's annoying you, right? And eventually you get so annoyed with it that you go get the fly swatter and you swat it, right? You pay attention to it by hopefully either killing it or getting it out of your house if you're able to catch it and release it. When we don't get our needs for attention met, we learn to do things that get attention inappropriately. We learn to bug people, or we annoy people, or we do things that get us inappropriate attention so that people will pay attention to us and we can move our energy. That, whatever it is that you learn to do, that triggers in people a specific emotional response. The reason why this is good to understand is that, first of all, you can gauge from how people are reacting to you what your own energy needs might be and whether you're getting those needs met appropriately. And when you're in partnership with other people, you can start to look at, how does your partner or your children or your parents or whoever, how do those people behave, and how does their behavior make you feel emotionally? And if you have a dynamic in your partnership that isn't very good or healthy or bothers you, like let's say your partner really annoys you, you can now start going, wait a minute, my partner is annoying me. Why is my partner annoying me? Oh, my partner is annoying me because he's trying to tell me that he needs attention and that he doesn't know that that's what he needs. He has learned over the course of his lifetime that when he annoys people, he gets inappropriate attention. What if I take a risk in my partnership and I say to my partner, hey, you know what? I'm getting the feeling like you and I need to have some alone time together. Like you're really feeling like I've been busy and distracted and I'm not being fully present to you. Let's set up a date. And now, in that one brilliant insight that you've had based on your partner's behavior, you are now able to creatively and proactively create a plan where you and your partner can reconnect and get your attention needs met without you having to resort to dysfunctional behavioral patterns that can sometimes even make your relationship unhealthy or uncomfortable. So, we're actually going to spend the rest of our time together going through specifically the four mistaken motivations that people have when they have energy needs. I'm going to show you how you can recognize in your chart where you may have more of a tendency towards a specific mistaken motivation. And I'm going to show you how to diagnose your partner's mistaken motivations so that you can become a better partner and see and love and empower your partner in the best way possible so that you can deepen your connection, improve your communication, become more intimate. As I go through these four mistaken motivations, I want you to remember that these are behavioral patterns that most of us have learned from before we were even verbal. In the context of our relationships with our families of origin, we learned these behavioral patterns. The behavioral patterns that we engage in are designed to trigger a specific emotional response, So as we're going through this, don't go by how you think your partner's behavior looks. Don't go, oh, that looks like power or that looks like attention. I want you to go with, how is this behavior, especially with children, because children are doing this because they don't have the vocabulary to tell you what's going on with them sometimes. How is this behavior making you feel? Okay, so think about your partner and how does your partner make you feel? If your partner is experiencing the mistaken motivation of attention, they may irritate and annoy you. If someone is experiencing the mistaken motivation of power, you may feel like you want to overpower them back. You may get into a power struggle with them. If your partner is experiencing the mistaken motivation of inadequacy, you may pity them, or you may want to overhelp them. You may want to take over and do something for them. If they are experiencing the mistaken motivation of revenge, you might feel like you want to hurt them back. Don't worry about remembering all this. I'll go through this again as we go through the slides. But let's start first with the mistaken motivation of attention. If you have a higher than average need for attention, if that's part of the configuration in your chart, and in just a minute, I'm going to show you where you can find that in your chart. When you have a need for attention, you need to feel seen, heard, loved, and valued. Your goal when you engage in the mistaken motivation of attention is to get attention of some kind. And I say specifically some kind because sometimes over the course of our life, when we don't get appropriate attention, when we don't get recognition for who we really are, sometimes we create mischief because getting any attention is better than getting no attention at all. So sometimes we learn to be inappropriate because we need that attention to move our energy so that we feel good in our lives. If you are with a partner or a child who has the mistaken motivation of attention, they may seem like they are a nuisance. They may be a show-off or a clown. You might perceive them as lazy, and you might feel like you have to constantly nag them and bug them to get them to do stuff. They may be hyperactive. Your partner might associate love with attention. They might whine, and yes, grown-ups can whine too. And they may be, sometimes, this is something some of us learn to do to get attention, they may be people pleasers. You do everything that you think everybody else wants from you because that gets you good attention. If you need attention, if you're not getting the kind of attention that you need, or you haven't learned how to get appropriate attention, you might feel invisible. You might feel like no one really sees you for who you are or sees you at all. You might feel like you have to be loud or you have to stand out or be dramatic to get acknowledged. Or you might feel like other people steal your ideas and wisdom and you're constantly getting your ideas stolen or other people take credit for your brilliance. If you are in a partnership with someone who needs extra attention, who has a high need for attention or recognition in their chart, you might feel like you have to give them undue service, constantly checking in on them. This is a high need person, right? Like you need to remind them often, like you have to coax them, like you feel annoyed with them, or you feel drained by their constant need for attention, or you feel irritated with them. If you are in partnership, attention markers in the chart, people who have a higher than average need for attention based on their chart would be anybody who is a projector, a reflector, and sometimes even generator types. Anyone who, if you look at your human design chart, if you have a throat center, in this particular image, it's colored in, just because I want to show you where it is. But if on your chart, your throat center is white, then you have what's called an open throat, which means you take in everybody else's communication energy and you amplify it. But if you have an open throat, people can't hear you unless you are responding to them. So you need to be recognized or seen in order to be heard appropriately. So you need a lot of recognition when you have an open throat center. If you have an open G center, Sometimes if you have this center white in your chart, this is the center for identity. This is the center for direction. When you have the center open, because your identity can be malleable, how you experience yourself changes depending on where you are and who you're with. That's normal for you, by the way. That's half of the people on the planet, okay? That's not a character flaw. That's half of the people on the planet. But when you have the center open, sometimes you need extra recognition to feel like you're being seen in the world. If you have a G center connection to the throat, so if you have that diamond in the chart colored in, and it'll be yellow, and if you have a channel connected from that yellow diamond to the throat center, so in this particular chart, there are 4 channels that are colored in. You can have any of those, all of those, one of those, any combination of those. But if you have a direct connection from that yellow diamond to the brown throat center, it means you really need to be seen for who you are, and that you're actually can be very vulnerable to criticism. Sometimes with that configuration, you need extra attention to bolster your confidence and your ability to feel like it's safe to be seen in the world. If you are in a partnership with someone who has a high need for recognition and attention, the most loving contribution that you can give them is attention. Talk to them, be present to them, put down the cell phone, close the computer, put away Netflix, and be with your partner. Ask them questions about their day. When you see them, when you reconnect with them after being away from them for a while, make space to really sit down and be present to your partner. They need that to feel like they can move their energy. You also want to get into a regular habit of giving them what I'll call a genuine encounter moment. That means spend time with them and let them direct the conversation. Let them direct the activity. Let them lead you where they want to go with the conversation, because that following their energy, first of all, is very honoring, it's very loving, and it allows them to move that energy and those ideas and thoughts and things they've probably been trying to share with you for a long time. Teach them, and I put that in quotation marks because obviously we're not really going to be teaching our partners, that's kind of demeaning, but teach them through questioning how to ask for attention appropriately. So you could say things to your partner like, you know what? I'm really feeling like you and I need to spend some time together, and that you're really asking me, or, for some attention, for us to really connect with each other. I'm wondering if you feel like I'm not really connecting with you right now. Mirror back to them what you're sensing from their behavior so that they can stop the behavior eventually. It takes time. And start learning to just be okay with saying, hey, you know what? I really need to spend some time with you. I miss you. If for some reason you need to go do something else or put your attention elsewhere, especially if you are a manifestor or a manifesting generator type, inform your partner or your child that you're planning on putting your attention elsewhere. So you can tell them, hey, I need to teach this class right now, so I'm going to be in my office for the next hour, but when I'm done, let's hang out together for a little bit. The next mistaken motivation is the mistaken motivation of power. If you have the mistaken motivation of power, and generally speaking, by the way, most people pick one mistaken motivation to become experts in. Very few people do all 4 goals. Most of us pick one that we're really, really good at, right? If you have the mistaken motivation of power, you have a need to feel empowered. And when you engage in the mistaken motivation of power, you are trying to be powerful or to feel empowered. You may feel like you want to have a say over what's going on or what's happening to you. The goal of the mistaken motivation of power is to get access to power. If you have the mistaken motivation of power, or if you have a partner who's living it out, they may be stubborn. They may often argue with you. They might have a negotiation strategy when it comes to problem solving in the partnership where they have to win. They might not feel like it's okay for them to really get what they want, so they might lie, cheat, or steal. Not so much adults usually, but especially if you have kids, kids will do this, right? If you have a love in your life, your partner has a mistaken motivation of power, they may be openly defiant or they may go against what you want even when they know what you want and you've talked about it. If you yourself have the mistaken motivation of power, you might feel in your own life powerless. You might feel like in your life someone else's agenda is more important, or that someone else's agenda hijacks your own needs and wants. You might feel despair, like there's not ever going to be a chance for me to have my turn. You might feel like you can't fix or change anything, or even like you're a victim of your life or your partnership. And you may even have abdicated or given up being powerful and asking for what you want because it just feels like there's no point. I'm not going to get it anyway. If your partner is expressing the mistaken motivation of power, you might feel despairing, challenged, or threatened. You might feel angry. You might feel like you have to control your partner or your child. You can place child with partner here. You might feel like your partner is really trying to show, you might feel like you have to show your partner who's boss. I'm the boss. I'm going to win. I'm the boss. I'm the one that says what goes in the kitchen. It's my kitchen, right? And you might be determined not to let your partner win. Sometimes when the power is a dynamic in the partnership, there can be a lot of competitive energy in the partnership. Who gets to win? Who gets to be the most powerful? Power markers in the chart include manifestors, and I'm going to throw in here too, it's not on here, manifestors and manifesting generators. If you have a defined will center, you might have an extra need for power. If you have the channel 4521, or if you have one half of this channel and your partner has the other half of the channel. So let's say you have the 45 and your partner has the 21. When you guys bring that energy together, it's a really good configuration for power struggling in a partnership until you figure it out. If you have a defined emotional solar plexus, sometimes you have the mistaken motivation of power. And honestly, part of the reason why you sometimes have the mistaken motivation of power when you have a defined emotional solar plexus is because you feel powerless over your own emotional energy. It feels unpredictable to you. And so you react to that sense of being powerless over your own emotional energy. If you have in your partnership the channel 2838, or you have this whole channel, or your partner has this whole channel, or you have half and your partner has half, or if you just even have one of the gates, same thing true for the 4521, the other one I just talked about. If you have this dynamic in your partnership or in your partner's chart or in your own chart, you might have an additional need for power in your dynamic in the world. When your partner or your child is living the mistaken motivation of power, your most loving contribution that you can make to your partner is to find ways for your partner to feel powerful. Ask for their help. Ask for their insights. Ask them to set an agenda and to take control over something in the family. If you get locked into power struggles with somebody who has the mistaken motivation of power, sidestep the power struggle. Meaning, do not get locked in that back and forth of, no, I won't, yes, you will, no, I won't, yes, you will, no, I won't, my way, your way, my way, my way, my way, back and forth, that fighting that we do in power struggle. When we're in power struggle, we can't find solutions when we're locked in combat. So sidestepping the power struggle doesn't mean you're losing, okay? Doesn't mean you're quitting. It means you're getting out of the struggle so that you can de-escalate and then come back and do win-win negotiations so that you can find a more empowered, more loving way to help your partner get their needs for power met. And of course, for you too, you don't want to abdicate what you need and want because your partner needs more power. Give your partner choices. I know it's a simple trick. We do it a lot with 2 and 4-year-olds. It works really well with grown-ups too. Give them a choice. Do you want to go eat first and see a movie, or do you want to go see a movie and then go get coffee? Right? Give them a choice. And then in those occasions when they really work with you, really acknowledge them for that. Acknowledge those places where you guys create contribution to each other, create cooperation together. In partnerships, in anything, what you acknowledge, what you pay attention to is where you create possibilities for growth. If you notice the cooperation and the working together, and you pay attention to that and acknowledge it, you put more energy towards growing more of that in your relationship. And that's way more fun than power struggling. The third mistaken motivation is called inadequacy. When you are experiencing the mistaken motivation of inadequacy, what you're really doing is saying, I need to feel capable. When you don't feel capable, then you find hidden ways, secret ways, mischievous ways, destructive ways sometimes, to get help or to feel more competent. So the goal of the mistaken motivation of inadequacy is to find ways around feeling inadequate and overwhelmed and find ways to get help, sometimes without asking for it outright. When somebody is experiencing the mistaken motivation of adequacy, sometimes they might act like they just want to be left alone, leave me alone. But you know intuitively that's not what they really want and what they really mean. It's sort of a kind of a manipulative way of, I want to be alone, leave me alone, right? People who are experiencing the mistaken motivation of inadequacy may sometimes act helpless. I can't, right? They may talk about or express how they feel stupid in comparison to other people. They may give up and quit and not participate in activities. And this is my favorite one, I see this a lot. They may set goals that are too high and won't do anything that doesn't measure up to these goals. And the last one that's not on this list, but I would encourage you to put this one down if you're taking notes: procrastination and avoidance. Okay, procrastination and avoidance is a big symptom of inadequacy. How you feel if you are experiencing the mistaken motivation of inadequacy, if you feel like this is what you might be doing in your life, you may often feel overwhelmed. You might feel stuck or confused. You might procrastinate or avoid. And you may abdicate responsibility for things and say things like, I can't do fill in the blank because fill in the blank. If you are watching someone you love live the mistaken motivation of inadequacy, if your partner is living out the motivation of inadequacy, you might try a wide variety of approaches, and may have tried a wide variety of approaches to try to inspire them and get them going, and you may feel really discouraged. You might feel like you have to coax them and remind them. You might even at a certain point give up trying. Why bother? I'll just go do my own thing because they're not going to do it anyway. You might make few demands on your partner. You might not really ask for what you want and need from your partner because you're going to be afraid that they're just going to react with that whole inadequacy thing. And you might find that, and this happens a lot, especially in certain codependent dynamics, that you end up doing things for your partner that they could be doing for themselves, and then you burn out on the relationship because your partner's sense of inadequacy keeps them from being able to do what they can do for themselves. And you get locked into putting a lot of energy into taking care of them. Inadequacy markers in the chart include the gate 48. People who have the gate 48 have a deep need for the depth of information, depth of experience, depth of understanding. And so sometimes when you have the gate 48, you feel like you don't know enough, or you don't have enough training, or you don't have enough experience. And then you get stuck in fear about, I'm not ready yet. And it's difficult sometimes to push through that inadequacy to get to the other side of it. Here's the trick if you have the gate 48. The trick to the gate 48 is this: do it anyway. This is what's called a splenic fear. It's an in the moment, time constrained fear. It feels, if you don't act on it, like it's going to go on forever, like you are forever going to be stuck in inadequacy. But the truth is, if you feel the fear and push through it and do whatever it is you think that you are not ready to do anyway, what you're going to find is two things. Number one, as soon as you do that, the fear goes away. Number two, as soon as you do that, you realize, oh my God, I'm way more prepared than I thought I was. In fact, I'm like 5,000 million times more prepared than everybody else in the room, because you are. When you have the gate 48, you go deep. Okay? If you have anything, any channels or gates in the sensing circuit, especially if you have channels in the sensing circuit, and if you see this little chart, here's this chart of the sensing circuit. The sensing circuit is actually that. It's a sensing circuit. It's when you sense information, you feel it, you experience it viscerally, sensually. So it is a very sensing and feeling energy circuit. It is right brain dominance, right? So it's holistic, expansive, creative thinking. The struggle with sensing is that because sensing is not logical, when you have a lot of sensing circuitry in your chart, you don't process information linearly. So let's say, I'll put it in the context of parenting and children, because that is a much less charged way of looking at it. Let's say you are a human being, a small child with a lot of sensing circuit, and you get out your Legos, right? And you have a big box of Legos, and you've dumped all the Legos out on the floor. Isn't that so much easier to think about than cleaning your desk, right? Some of the grown-up things you have to do. If you have a lot of the sensing circuit, you might walk into your room, see all the Legos on the floor, and immediately be like, whoa, totally overwhelmed. And your mom's yelling at you going, pick up your Legos. And you're saying, I can't. I don't even know where to start. And so you go back into the kitchen and you say to your mom, I can't. There's too many of them. I'm tired, right? If we're grown-ups, we're saying, I can't clean my desk right now. I think I'll go watch Netflix, right? We're avoiding it, okay? If you have sensing circuit, you don't have a system in the way you're hardwired to go into that room and start in a sequential way cleaning up the mess. You just see the mess. You don't see like, oh, step one, I'll pick up the yellow ones. Step two, now I'll pick up the blue ones. Step three, now I'll pick up the red ones. That's a logical approach to the problem. Sensing circuit sees the big picture and doesn't always have the linear way to resolve the overwhelm. So sometimes when you have a lot of sensing circuit, it's really nice to get help and support from people who give you ideas about, well, how could you break this down into something a little bit more manageable? I'll tell you guys a secret. So my husband has a lot of stuff, okay? A lot of stuff. He has an entire downstairs full of stuff, right? He has no logic definition in his chart at all. Zero, zippo, nada. He's not logical. He's very sensual. He's very holistic, very, very creative man. He's an architect, right? He can't clear up his stuff because he sees all of it. And when he's looking at it, he's looking at the history of humanity in his book collection downstairs, right? And he can't figure out which ones should I take the half-price books, which ones should I keep, which ones should I give to my kids. So I have to go down there with him, and we take it in apart, chunk by chunk. We work an hour at a time every weekend, going through all this stuff to really find some way of clearing it and getting rid of it. That's a beautiful thing that my logical hardwiring can give to his sensual hardwiring. And it helps us both. Me, because we get rid of the stuff. Him, because it gives him a system to sort through the stuff in a way that allows him to really figure out how to do it and not be overwhelmed and avoid it, which he's done for 10 years. Okay. An open spleen can oftentimes also experience the mistaken motivation of inadequacy, mostly because when you have an open spleen, meaning if you have this triangle on the left-hand side of your chart white, it means that your sense of time and timing is very malleable, and doing things in a timely manner sometimes isn't easy for someone with an open spleen. So time and timing can sometimes be a challenge when you have an open spleen. And so you may sometimes find that you avoid it. You put off or procrastinate or get lost in something to the point to where you get stuck in it because you're overwhelmed. The open root center and also the open head center, both of these centers, the root and the head center, are also sometimes prone to inadequacy. And part of the reason why is there's pressure in both the open head center. So if you have the triangle at the top of the chart white, or the square at the very bottom of the chart, the very bottom of the chart white, if either one of these two centers are open for you, you may experience a lot of pressure. Pressure to do, pressure to figure things out, pressure from other people. And that pressure can be so overwhelming sometimes that it shuts you down and it makes it difficult for you to do things and you feel inadequate or you experience inadequacy. Also, sometimes in open G center, because when you have this diamond in the center of the chart white, not yellow, but when it's white on your chart, because you can experience so much possibility and so much energy from other people, and also because when you have the center white, if the environment doesn't feel good for you, it's hard to get stuff done. And you might feel a real struggle around direction when you have this open, when you have this colored in white in your chart. And that struggle for direction can sometimes leave you feeling overwhelmed or confused about where you should start in doing something, and you might feel or experience the mistaken motivation of inadequacy. If you love someone with the mistaken motivation of inadequacy, stay friendly. Try not to let your frustration with them make you react in a way that isn't happy and pleasant. Discuss with your partner their beliefs. Sometimes when your partner has inadequacy, they have a whole history of injuries, emotional pain that they've experienced at the hands of other people who have criticized them and judged them and made it not safe for them to try to do what they need to do in a way that's right for them. Stay encouraging, but try not to get into a habit of rescuing your partner, because if you do, you'll get into a pattern that can be depleting and exhausting, and you might end up losing respect for your partner, which doesn't help the partnership. Assure your partner of their value. Celebrate small successes. You know, when you get an hour's worth of cleaning out the basement done, high five each other and go have a cappuccino. Model for your partner positive self-talk, not because you're showing them how to do it. You want to respect your partner. If they're kids, you can model it, but show them what it looks like, just because sometimes when you're in an environment where you're already beating yourself up, it's nice to have the energy in the family environment or in the relationship be uplifting and positive. It inspires you to go beyond being stuck in a dark mindset. And of course, you can help them break things down into small, manageable tasks. That's always the gift you can give someone who has inadequacy as a mistaken motivation. Give them some ideas if they're stuck about how they can make it easier. The last mistaken motivation that I'm going to talk about today is called revenge. The mistaken motivation of revenge is driven by the need to feel loved, valued, capable, and powerful. And if it sounds like that's like everything we've talked about up until this point, you're right. What happens is when we don't get our basic needs met consistently, or if we're in a partnership where we've never gotten those needs met consistently, or if we're coming into partnership with a lot of baggage, our own stories about not being lovable, not being valuable, not feeling powerful, we engage in the mistaken motivation of revenge. Revenge, the goal of revenge is to get a response from your partner so that you know that they still have a place, you still have a place in their heart. Now, it's not pretty. Okay, I'm not going to pull any punches about mistaken motivation or revenge. A lot of times what's happening in revenge is you're trying to hurt your partner, sometimes deliberately, because by hurting your partner and getting a reaction from them, you know that even if things are really rough and dodgy between the two of you, at least there's still a response to you. There, even if it's hurt, even if there's hurt or reacting to you, there's still an emotional connection. It's not highly functional. It's not particularly constructive in a partnership, but it is a way of communicating to your partner, hey, we're in pain here. We need to really work together to bring our partnership to a different place. When somebody is acting out the mistaken motivation of revenge, they may be vicious. They may hurt children, animals, or themselves. They may often blame others of their unfairness. They may believe that no one likes them. They may want to get even. They may make themselves unlikable, or they may feel like nobody understands them. If you are experiencing revenge as a motivation, if you're acting out the mistaken motivation of revenge, you might feel angry, like nobody cares about me. You might feel deeply hurt. You might feel like you want to strike out at your partner. You might feel abandoned or even potentially bitter about the partnership. If somebody is doing revenge, if your partner is acting out the mistaken motivation of revenge, you might feel hurt. You might get angry in response. You may want to hurt them back. You might genuinely dislike your partner. You might consider your partner to be ungrateful. You might want to teach your partner a lesson so you descend down into the same playing field, right? Or you may even ask other family members to avoid them. This becomes especially true, like if we're in a partnership and we have children, we might say things like, well, don't ask your dad right now. He's in a really bad mood. You know how your dad is when he's in a bad mood. You may try to manipulate the kids against your partner or other people in the family against your partner. Revenge markers in the chart include, and by the way, these are loose guidelines, these markers in the chart. They don't guarantee the mistaken motivation. They're just tendencies. And they're tendencies that I want to draw your attention to so that you can start to look at your chart and start thinking about, wow, what do I really need to feel loved, valued, powerful, and capable in my life? When it comes to the mistaken motivation of revenge, there are tendencies I'm going to point out to you. I just want to be really, really clear that we all, regardless of our charts, have the capacity to engage in revenge. It is the secondary byproduct of not getting our attention, power, capability needs met from the beginning. It's usually something that happens over time in a partnership. So nobody really starts out with revenge. We usually get there because there are things that have been broken along the way that haven't been working. So then we slip into revenge because we question our lovability in the relationship. So as I go through these chart markers, please don't think that, oh, well, I don't have my chart, I'm immune to that. We all can do revenge, trust me. But revenge markers in the chart can sometimes include projector and manifestor, usually because the energy they get burned out. An open G center, so if you have this diamond in the chart white, your natural default pattern when you have this white in your chart is to sort of question your lovability anyway. When you question your lovability and you really don't feel loved, you can slip into revenge when you have an open G center. If you have the gate 10, this is the gate of self-love. It's also the gate of blaming. You did this to me, right? It's that finger pointing energy. So be mindful if you have the gate 10 in your chart to really drop into a space of always asking yourself, am I responsible for this? Is this, what am I doing in this situation to create this? Because it's really in the dynamics of energy exchange between partners, it's never all one person or the other. It's always a combination of energies. The channel 4037, you can't see that because it says 43, but it's actually 4037 is the chart move. So the channel 4037 is oftentimes associated with revenge. What happens is if you have this channel or you have this channel in your relationship, so your partner has it or you have it or you each have half, in the partnership, you are always making agreements and bargains, sometimes not out loud with your mouth and consciously. Sometimes you're unconsciously making agreements and bargains. And when your partner doesn't realize that you've been making unconscious agreements and bargains in your partnership, and they inadvertently maybe break the agreement, maybe because they didn't know it was there in the first place, it literally breaks your heart. It makes you feel like, I'm not loved. You don't love me enough to take out the garbage, right? I'm being silly, but those broken agreements can cause us to experience hurt and consequently slip into the mistaken motivation of revenge. So if you have this in your relationship energy, so important to have conversations about your agreements so that you're both on the same page. If you love someone who is living out the mistaken motivation of revenge, do not retaliate. It is very easy when revenge is happening in a relationship to tear the fabric of the relationship by retaliating. Don't do it. Your relationship and you are worth more than that, and so is your partner. Discuss with your partner their good qualities. Notice what is beautiful and powerful and awesome about your partner. Don't focus on the negative. Empathize with their feelings. Be aware of what's going on in the partnership and be empathic. Re-establish the relationship. If your relationship has slid into the mistaken motivation of revenge, it's in crisis and you need support in re-establishing that relationship. Ask your partner to express themselves without being hurtful in response and make it safe for them to talk about what's going on with them. Find out why your partner is feeling hurt or overpowered and stop your hurtful part of the problem. And then re-establish the relationship. I know I already said this, but I'm saying it again. Re-establish your relationship and your connection as your number one goal before you tackle anything else in the relationship. So don't tackle things like, well, who is going to take out the garbage then? Don't deal with that stuff right now. Get the relationship connection back in place, and then you can move to creative problem solving at that point. Thank you so much, you all, for joining me today for the Quantum Alignment Show. I appreciate all of you so much and all of your comments and all of your attention here. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful week, and I look forward to talking to you all next week when we'll talk about something else new and exciting related to human design. So take good care of yourselves. Have a good week. Bye.